So, good afternoon and welcome to Rover Rumble and Planetary Exploration. And let's get our slide up. I'd like to thank Carroll County Public Library for hosting today's program, and a very special thanks to Rose Young, who is director for the PIE3 group, Partnership and Inspiration for Engineering, Education and Entrepreneurship, and also works very closely with Robo-Lions. I'd also like to thank Brian, who is going to be helping to present today's program. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you're joining us through Facebook, YouTube, etc., please use the chat to ask questions, and you can send us comments as well. We're really looking forward to today's program, and I would now like to turn it over to Rose and Brian.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and thank you for having us. I'm going to kind of switch back here and share my screen. We'll try to get through some of the technological shifting here. But what we're going to talk about today is rovers. The title of this is Rover Rumble, and it should be, I hope, a lot of fun for everybody to be able to think about rovers. And I'm going to explain to you first a little bit of the background and kind of how we got to this and why we're talking about rovers. There's something kind of important that is, we have an anniversary we want to talk about that may or may not be familiar to you, but I thought, hey, it's a good theme for us, something good to think about. So here we go, Rover Rumble and planetary exploration. So as Dorothy said in her lovely introduction, we don't actually take our robots from Carroll County and do exploration of planets. But many of the teams that we have for robotics work on robots and learn things and end up going into fields that allow them to work on these things like these robots and other really cool technologies. In fact, NASA is very much a supporter of these robotics programs. So there's a cool connection there, and there are a couple of other ones. And so we're going to kind of walk through some of those things and talk a little bit about it. Now, what we have in this year, 2021, although it has been known for a lot of other things, which we are not here to talk about. It is the 50th anniversary of a first in Mars exploration that a lot of people are not aware of. So we thought that would be fun to talk about. And then we're going to make some rovers. So you have your kits, and I'll show you the kit here in a little bit. Brian's got a kit. Brian, hold yours up there for just a minute. This is our, you should have two actually kits like this. There's not little bitty pieces in there, so we're going to show you how to put those together, and we'll share some cool facts, and we will see if we can answer some questions. We are definitely not experts. I am not working at NASA. I don't build rovers. We'll do our best. I've been doing a little bit of research, and it's pretty fun. And we also have a lot of things to share with you. We shared a link in advance, which I think is a really cool video. If you didn't get a chance to check that out, it's great. The red planet is another name for Mars, so there's a lot of focus on that. So we're going to share some research books and links and cool stuff, so you can get engaged with that. And then we had planned at the end to do a Kahoot to test your knowledge, and if we have time, we'll get to that. But we also have some videos to share, so if we don't get to it, maybe we'll just put a quiz together and share that with you a little bit later. So that's a maybe. Okay, so for sure, you've already been introduced to us. I just wanted to kind of pull it together again, and if you're still not quite sure if you're in the right place, here's the Rover Rumble at the library event that you signed up for. The kits should have been labeled with this when you picked them up. Actually, they were when I dropped them off, so hopefully they were. And we want to thank the library for inviting us to work with them. And PIE3 or Pi Cubed, as we call it, because we're mathematics kind of people. We sponsor teams forming in robotics, and last year, of course, wasn't our biggest year, but we're trying to work some comeback. And normally we, right about now, would be running some robotics camps, and maybe you've been to our camps, or maybe you thought about going to our camps. Well, unfortunately, we couldn't be guaranteed a space or any sort of other anything, which it was sad this year. So we're not doing it this year, but we are trying to come back in August and organize robotics teams and help people get them organized. Not to get any misconception out there, we do have one major, the Robo-Lions high school robotics team, that we actually physically have a space, and you can join that one. And there are a couple of others for middle, like 7th and 8th grade, up to high school. And for those of you who are younger, we can just kind of facilitate. We've got some parts and we've got some help in getting it together, and we can help make it happen, but we're not running those teams. It's not like you just join. So it's a little bit more to it. And so what we do is we have an organizational meeting and sort of talk people through that. And we'll be dropping off some information about that at the library. It's going to be on our Facebook page. You're going to see some links to all that stuff. So if you want to find out more, we'll give you some places to go, and that would be on the Facebook page and the website for PIE3 and the Robo-Lions. So the Robo-Lions are a high school team. Brian is a member of the team. Is this your 3rd year? Going into your 3rd year now?
It is, yes.
Yeah, so he's very experienced, and he's built bigger robots than these little rovers. And he'll tell you about ours at the end, because we have some video to share. So we have about 15 to 20 students usually, and we have a workshop now in Finksburg. So we can invite you to come visit that if you're interested in finding out more. So what is this 50th anniversary? Well, it's the 50th anniversary of something called Mariner 9. So when people first thought about going to Mars or looking at Mars, it was a long time ago. And one of the books that we have to share with you is, I don't know if I'm going to get the reflection right, but you're going to see this at the end too. It's called Exploring Space. And of the books that are recommended, this is my favorite one. The library does have copies of it. I'll return this one. This is from the Eldersburg branch. But this has a nice history, and the subtitle of it is From Galileo to the Mars Rover and Beyond. So it just gives you an idea of the breadth of human interests in Mars. And in 1971, 50 years ago, the first successful, not flyby, but mapping from orbit of Mars took place. And it was by Mariner 9. There's a lot of, not always in agreement, information out there about the history of Mars exploration. And a lot of times Mariner 9 is left out, because Mariner 9 was not a rover. It took pictures, and it was the culmination of a lot of effort to get it there. And there were a lot of failed attempts prior to the success. So this was pretty exciting, and we like to celebrate anniversaries. So this is a 50th anniversary of a, not a rover, but a machine that was pretty much like a rover, except it didn't land on the planet, but it went around. It took a lot of pictures, and I have another slide a little bit later on to talk about that. So it launched in May 1971, got there in November, gives you an idea of how long it had to be in space to get there. So happy 50th anniversary, if anybody is around that remembers Mariner 9 landing. So that's our little celebration today. We're also going to show at the end some more pictures of some of these rovers. Some of them are very famous. Some of them are very well known. We'll, I've picked up a few facts here and there, little interesting points of view, but that's not what you're here for. You can look this up too. We'll give you a link for this. This is actually from NASA. All these pictures are from the NASA website, because these are all NASA rovers going back to very early Mars exploration, which was the Pathfinder, right up to Perseverance, which was in the news as late as February, big news about its landing. So we'll come back to talk about those. But so what are you here for? You want to make your own rover. Okay. Now what we're making is something called a bristlebot. And it's called a bristlebot because it has bristles. And what else has bristles but a toothbrush? So if you figured out already that you have a toothbrush head in your kit, you are correct. It is a toothbrush head. It's cut off of a toothbrush. So if you want to make another one, ask first, but you could get another toothbrush. It's nice if it's flat. The bristles are flat. There's a few other tricks to making these. On the left, underneath, what these have in common with rovers are some more colorful ones than the ones that we've given you. But there's a layout there of kind of generally what the parts are. And on the right is some that I made. What do they have in common with rovers, of course, is that, they do move around, and they move around without you having a controller to drive them. It's not a remote control car. A rover is not a remote control car. NASA does send, and JPL and, all those people that are communicating with rovers are communicating with them. But if it took 7 months to get it there, even at the speed of light, it takes a long time to get a message to them. So they have to be able to operate on their own. So they have that in common. They also run into things and bump around. They don't scoop anything up. They don't take pictures, but they do interact with the environment. Okay. The best thing about this rover, NASA didn't build it, so it didn't cost more than your house, my house, and probably most of the houses in Carroll County put together. Okay. It's pretty expensive to send something to Mars. So you can do this inexpensively, but you could also add to this. So we have some ideas, and maybe you have some other ideas, and you can ask us some questions, maybe put in the comments if you come up with some great ideas as we go through and make these. So that's what we're doing. We're going to make something that looks like the little fellas on the right. And so I am going to stop sharing my screen right now, because what I want to do is I would like to give Brian an opportunity to show you one of the first steps. Okay, so he's going to show you one of the first things to do, and the two things you need to take out. So if you want to hold up, Brian, the battery and the motor.
Yep.
We're going to start with the battery and a motor, and the reason we're starting with the battery and the motor is, oh, thank you for taking my screens down. Yeah, the battery and the motor, you should be able to see them better now, is because you got to kind of get used to what this motor does. So the battery is, of course, the energy source, and you always need one of those. Rovers have them. There's a rechargeable solar batteries. This one's not. This is like a watch battery, a little button battery. The motor is something that you might not have seen, but you probably have around somewhere. It's a little vibrating motor. That's all it does. Some motors make things spin around. This one just, bleh. So to get used to that, because it can be a little shocking at first, Brian's just going to show you how to hook it up and get it to vibrate. Okay, so you have two wires. Show us the two wires. There's two colors of the wire. I'm going to give you a color to use first, but you don't really have to. We're going to show you how it works either way. What you want to do is touch one side of the battery with one color wire and the other side of the battery with the other color wire, because one side of your battery is positive and one's negative. And to get electricity flowing, you got to go from negative to positive through something. Now, that's really hard to tell. So if you do it yourself, you'll get a better idea. But what you've got is a little vibrator. And these are the kinds of little vibrators, that some are even smaller, that are in your cell phones. So you can find these kind of motors now real popular because they're in cell phones. They used to be in pagers. People had pagers. So anything that, well, can go buzz and vibrate has one of these little motors. So we're going to use one of these little motors. You can play with it for a little bit or not, whatever you want to do. We are going to then use this. I guess we'll go ahead, instead of switching back, I think we'll go ahead and get started on the next part of the assembly. Okay, and I'm going to switch and show you on, because I have a camera that points down. It's actually going to point down at one of the books that we have, so I can kind of give you some visuals, and Brian's going to hold up the pieces as we go through. Okay, so what I have is a couple of extra kits, so you can kind of see, and I have a couple of extra items. So one of the items I have is a roll of tape. This we didn't give you, but it's a handy thing to have. So if somebody's helping you and get a little roll of tape, you might need this. Also, you're going to need a pair of scissors. So I forgot to say that, because the battery, you can open it without scissors, but it's a little easier to open it if you cut open the battery with some scissors. So here's your kit. You should have a kit like this. Okay, and the battery is in this little plastic bubble pack here. So we're going to take that battery out, and somewhere in there, here's mine, down here's a motor. Okay, so there's not that much stuff. I'm just going to dump it out on top of the book about Mars, and have to reach in because the double stick tape got stuck. Okay, so what should we have here? We should have the battery, the motor, two little pieces of pipe cleaner, and I found when I was building these that it's nice to have some extra pipe cleaners, because you might want to put some extra legs, right? You want a 6-legged rover, because there's 6-wheeled rovers mostly on Mars. You can get that. And then you've got your toothbrush head. You should have 2 pieces of double stick tape, and in dumping mine out, one flew off somewhere. So a bigger one and a smaller one. The bigger one's going to be used first. And these 2 things, which are really fun, which are known as I call them Google eyes. I don't know. What do you call them, Brian?
I just call them googly eyes, yeah.
Googly eyes, yeah. And of course you have your head. So that's all you need. So we're going to use that to put it together. If we had lots of time, I'd tell you a hysterical story about googly eyes, but that involves my son in an operation. But let's just see if we have time for that at the end. It's one of those things parents appreciate. Okay, so Brian, if you would go ahead now, and the first thing we need is the head, that is our toothbrush head, right? And our large square of tape. Okay, so you take the large square tape and peel off one side of it. And I'm going to just leave mine here to show you that we've used these two parts. Okay, and Brian's going to show you what it looks like when you put those together. What you want to do is you're going to stick everything to the double stick tape. So first you wrap it around the top of the bristles with some hanging off each side, and just kind of wrap it around the sides. You could trim some, but I wouldn't. Okay, it's fine to just have it that way. And then what we're going to do is, I think next, what do you want to do next? Put the battery on or the eyes?
The eyes.
Let's put the eyes on. Sure, that makes it fun. So let's pull over our two little eyes. We're going to use those, and they're really just fun to watch. And so, which is the front? Eyes would go on the front. I think the front would be whatever the top of the toothbrush was, but you know what? It doesn't matter if you like the other end or you've already put them on the other end. That's okay. So go ahead and stick your eyes on. How does yours look, Brian?
Having some trouble getting the backs of the eyes off.
You know, you can. So I had that problem too, and I just stuck them on. So mine would come off when the back comes off, but there's enough sticky on the double stick tape. So if anybody out there is having trouble getting that off, there is another bit of sticky on the back of the eyes. And I have, nails, and I can probably get it off, but even I'm having trouble like peeling it off. So you can just stick them on. I'm going to go ahead and make one. This is so much fun. I'm just going to make one here. And go ahead and take this off. So you're way ahead of me now. Mine's going to be a little lopsided. Now, why do we give you two? Is that so if you lost a piece or you mess up? There's another reason we gave you two. We thought it would be fun, since Spirit and Opportunity went to Mars together, even though they didn't interact with one another, to let your rovers interact with one another. And so that's a little bit more fun. This double stick tape thing was really easy the first time I did it. So if you're a double stick tape pro and you've got yours all off and you've got your eyes on, then just take a breather and we'll be right with you, because I'm having trouble getting mine off too. But I'm not going to take it off the eyes. Okay, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it like this, and I'm going to just stick the eyes. Hey, come back here. Don't put your legs on yet. I'm just going to stick the eyes on the side, so I don't lose them. Some of your eyes might have been. I had different kits, and some of them had smaller eyes, and some of them had bigger eyes. But I kind of like these eyes. I think they're kind of okay. So already it's kind of woo. Hey. Okay, so we're going to need our battery, and mine's not out of the case. So go ahead and put your battery on. I'm going to see if my guy will stand up. He's very sticky now because yeah, there we go. And I'm going to use my scissors. So what we want to do is we're going to mount the battery, but we can't just mount the battery because we need to be able to get to the plus side of the battery. Okay, so when we mount the battery, we have to tuck one of the wires in underneath. And I'm going to pick the red wire. So I'm going to take this, and you see at the end of the wires, there's a piece that sticks out that's not coated red or blue. That's the conductor. So we need that to be in contact with the battery. Okay, so we're going to get the battery ready, and it doesn't really matter which side you put up. I put the kind of flattest side up, and attach both the wire and the battery. So now he's kind of cute. He's got like a little hat on. That's just the battery. And if you want to test it, you can just take your other wire and touch it, and it should start to jump around and vibrate. Okay, so mine did. When I did a little test connection here, if I test that, it's vibrating. Okay, so but I don't want to leave it on all the time. So I'm gonna leave it like that for a second. Now, this is what I think is the trickiest part, and this is where it can get a little bit more creative. And I'm going to show you one of the ones I already did. To put the legs on, these are like little legs, okay? There's a couple ways you can do it. You can lay it across here and bend it down. You could put one on each side and only have one leg and sort of bend it around and make it into a flat thing. That's what I did here, okay? So I put one on each side, and I actually had it tucked underneath the double stick tape. So you see this one is underneath. Okay, so when you make your second one, you might want to try it this way, and you'll see that my legs kind of go out and touch the ground, so it kind of helps balance. And because otherwise this guy here, he's a little bit tippy, right? Falls over a lot. So you need these legs for balance and maybe a little bit of guidance. So Brian, how'd you put yours on?
I put them on so that way it has 4 legs.
Okay, so he's got kind of the classic 4-legged little guy, and your other wire's still there loose, huh?
Yep.
So now what's our last piece that we have? We should have this other little piece of tape. Now when I dumped mine out, it went flying, so that's why it's good to have backup tape. You can just use regular tape for this, right? A little bit of Scotch tape. But you'll want to be peeling it off and on, and so that's where this is saving lots of money, because it's eventually it's not going to be sticky anymore, but if we're careful about it, it will be, because this is kind of our switch. Okay, it's hard to see, but right now I have this little piece of tape here, and it's connected to the blue wire underneath, but I haven't pressed down on it to make it have contact with the top of the battery. So this is my little, I have this little switch here ready to go. I oriented my motor here to tuck it in. I have another one. I don't know how you're going to do yours, Brian. I have mine. My other one has the motor pointed towards the back, kind of along the line of the rover. So however you get your motor comfortably and securely attached doesn't really matter. Okay, so my little guys are looking at each other, but they're not doing anything. And there's Brian's. You have it. You want to turn it on and see if make its little eyes jiggle. Do its eyes jiggle?
It is actually on one.
Yeah.
It's only this side that's jiggling, it seems.
Yeah. When you put it down, the eyes should jiggle. So since you guys can see mine here, I'm going to move this guy and this guy. Oh, there's my piece of tape. See what happens when you move things out of the way? And I'm going to move my extra kit, which I have another kit. So now you have 2, right? So they can work together. Let's see how fancy this guy gets. Now he kind of goes in a circle, which is kind of nice. So if he goes in a circle all day, that might get a little boring. So what I could do is I can reorient these 2 little legs. And again, if you want to just have 2 legs, as long as you give some sort of support on the ground, it'll work. If you have more pipe cleaners in different colors, I found some. I have kit stuff. You have maybe some craft stuff around. I found some red. Got a whole bunch here. I was actually thinking about making a like a circle out of these and make it so that he's got a little base, or just giving him a couple extra legs. So out of this, I can make 2 more legs and it could look more like a spider. If I take the second one, my second guy here, and I turn him on, he doesn't like to stay on as much. The funny thing about this guy, now they can interact to some extent, but he has a tendency to want to go backwards. And I have not figured out why he insists on going backwards. So he'll just work his way, and they're funny when they're upside down too. This guy always works his way into the back corner and just stays there. Or he works backwards and pushes the other guy off. So I have these on the top. Oh, look at! I have these on top of a book surface, which seems nice and smooth. They like that, but it's inside the top of a. This is just a shoebox, so that there's an edge. If you put them on carpet or like a rougher surface, that could be interesting. I don't really know what'll happen. And this guy went off because he tends to disconnect as well. So at any rate, the battery should last quite a while. To turn them off, of course, you just want to peel back that tape. And after a while, that'll be not as sticky, but as long as you leave part of it stuck. So like this one, I have part of it. I just peeled off the part that has the wire. Okay. So It stays. Okay, so I'm going to switch back my camera. And we have a few other slides, but and some video to share. So let's see first, do we have any questions or comments come up? Not seeing any so far. Feel free if you had some questions, or if you know a really cool fact about a rover or about Mariner 9 or a question, we'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, I will share these other couple of slides, and we're going to talk a little bit about some other rovers. Feel free to keep working on your rovers. And if you look online, by the way, you can find some other designs for these things. And one of the really cool ones, here's a picture of it. Because this kit that we have put together can also be used for something called a picobot. I always get backwards. So this is actually a 3D printed body with everything else, hooking on everything else the same, but it's got a more secure place for the battery, and then a way to open and close without using the stickiness. Okay, so if you're a 3D print fan and you want to design one of these, a little body that you can 3D print, the library has 3D printers, so that would be a great project. You can make it a little bigger than one of these. You could give it those 6 legs. You could just give it 2 legs. You could even print some legs if you want to do that. So I think that would be a really interesting project for anybody who would like to take that on. So, okay. Well, we don't seem to have as many people with questions. I think you're all just getting your double stick tape peeled off and stuck, which is okay. So the other thing that we could share a little bit more about, which I think is interesting, is 2 things. One about Mariner 9, and the other is about the robotics team. So we'll share a little bit about that, and if possible, we might be able to slide in a little extra bonus at the end. But let's just see. Okay, so I don't know if we've got the next slide up or if I need to share the one with the Mariner 9 information on it. If you want to just move to, if you have that up, Dorothy, and you want to just move on to that one, we can
This is
that.
Yeah, this is actually your screen.
Am I sharing?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Because I moved out of PowerPoint to do that other stuff, I forgot. You just brought me back up. Thank you so much. Okay. So
sure.
just get me straight. That's all. Okay. So I had a little bit more of a little fact finding here, and we have some links that we're going to share. So you would kind of wonder, how is something that took place 50 years ago, and we've come so far with rovers, how is that so important? I think this was really astounding. The on the left is some information from a NASA website, and again, that'll be on the list of links if you want to read some more. It's all about the Mariner 9 mission. And I mean, you can read it yourself, but the fact is there was an intense race between the USSR, which is what it was then, right? Russia now, and the United States. And there had been many launches and very few actual flights. And in fact, Mariner 8, just prior to Mariner 9, had a life of 6 seconds because it didn't really get very far. So it was very difficult to launch these devices into space all the way to Mars. But not only did Mariner 9 make it, and it was the first one that made it, it transmitted images like the one you see there, 7,000 images, and mapped 85% of Mars. That was important for planning all of the other Mars missions, because if you're a rover fan now, you know that there are specific sites, Jezero Crater and Gale Crater and Olympus Mons, and places on Mars that are of interest to scientists. And how did they know to be interested? Well, they weren't just looking through telescopes to see it. They had all these photographs from Mariner 9 and some of the follow-on satellites that were placed around Mars that transmitted those back so that they could have a map so they would know where they were going. I guess Christopher Columbus would have liked to have a map when he set out. He didn't have a very good one, but we had a much better one thanks to Mariner 9. So there is, that is the end of the slides that I have for right now. So that was just a little bonus information about Mariner 9. We'll come back to rovers in a little bit. I'm assuming everybody's able to put their rovers together and is busy buzzing around on the floor with them. What do you think, Brian? So I think we'd like to show some videos, and Brian's going to talk about those videos. And for those of you that are interested in robotics, or if you have an older brother or sister that you might want to join the team, we have some videos of what our experience was like this year when we couldn't go to competitions, but we had an at-home challenge. And that at-home challenge was to program the robot to do something on its own, by itself, in either a specific time frame or to do a certain amount of things in different ways. So it was very much like the challenges faced by NASA engineers when they're planning out their missions. You've got to practice it. So Brian, why don't you take it away and talk a little bit about the galactic search here?
The galactic search was one of probably the more difficult challenges that we had to do. It's where the robot has to quickly figure out which scenario it's in, and then move accordingly to pick up all of the balls as fast as possible. And it was pretty difficult to make it figure out very quickly and almost very accurately as well what kind of scenario it was in. But when it worked, it did it really fast. It's very fast.
We had specific places. So we had a map, like Mariner 9 map.
Yep. It immediately locked onto the balls, picked them up, and got to the end.
And then there were some others. This in between, you'll see a little glimpse of our website, and we were going to share our website with you to see some pictures of actual competition robots that we've built that were on the field with other robots, not just by themselves. This was an odd year, wasn't it?
Very. Interstellar accuracy. This one's one of my favorites since it has to go ahead and shoot as many balls as possible at the target. The way the target works is just getting inside of the hexagon is 2 points, but if it hits the blue circle, it gets 3 points. And we just have to try and get as many points as possible within a certain time frame.
So the other part of this that I thought was really cool is our team members had to really hustle to get those balls for to get the most. This was not the big hustle one, but there was another one where it was timed, and you see him just running like crazy.
Yeah, it was a very close one for first, that entry.
Now this particular robot, we did do this at-home challenge, and we were ranked. There's a bunch of people in the robotics get kind of hung up on ranking. This is a worldwide challenge, and there were thousands of teams. There are tens of thousands of teams normally, but we had thousands still that participated this year. And by any measure, we were proud to say this robot achieved in the top 5% in the world.
Yep.
And we are competing, as it happens, a week from Saturday. So we will actually have the real game. This robot will play its real game a week from Saturday. Unfortunately, it's down in Glen Allen, Virginia. So we won't be able to invite you, but if you keep an eye on our Facebook page, we'll have the live stream link there. It will be live streamed. We don't have the link yet, but it will be. If you want to see an event, and we have not had an event, and there have not been any in Maryland, DC, Virginia, or anywhere really, since March 1st of 2020. That was the last time this robot competed. So we had to get ourselves together and get ready for the competition again. But yeah, it's on the 24th of July, coming up soon. So we're up at the workshop working now, and we do enjoy having folks come visit. We had some visitors Tuesday night. We'll be up there tonight. And if you check us out on our Facebook page, you can message us there and I can give you some information about where to go and how to reach us. And there's also contact information on our website, which we hope to overhaul very soon so that it's a little bit easier to reach us. And then I think, was this the last one, or we have one more?
I think there's one more. Oh yeah, no, this one is the one where we had to really hustle.
Ah, yeah, okay.
We had to get as many points as we could in 60 seconds. I think the neat part about our robot is it uses LiDAR or limelight to look at the reflective part of the bottom part of the target and use that to aim automatically.
Yeah, you can't see that because it's facing front, but it is a pretty cool sensor. And our Mars rovers have amazing sensors. They use a lot of photography. They take pictures, but they also use some of their cameras. But that's not what how they navigate. They have all sorts of, or do their work, right? They have all sorts of other sensors to pick up rocks and examine them and send back all sorts of data. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think that's our videos. Now there are some more on our Facebook page, and we're going to we'll have some after the competition in a couple weeks. So we're going to be keeping that up. Those of you that were, and again, we had to go back 2 years, who maybe did a first Lego League team, we had a competition at Carroll Community College, and we are really hoping we can get those teams going again this year at the different schools that had them and in our community, and do that so you can actually come and see, because the Lego competition is pretty cool. It's pretty awesome and a lot of fun. So yeah, watch for that. This is we would normally know, we would have dates, but of course this year it's been a little harder to plan. So now I think we have some rovers to take a closer look at. And if you read some of the books, a number of the books go into some really interesting facts. The one I showed you is more of a historical, and then the one that my guys are running around on, that's really the focus there is on Mars. There's also there's a whole reading list that we put together, and if you look, the Red Rover, I have that one right here. This is about Curiosity. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have heard of Curiosity because it became very famous. There's a lot of news about Curiosity, and so there's quite a bit written. Several of these books you can see are about Curiosity. I'm sure we're going to see more about Spirit and Opportunity, which you should be maybe hearing a little bit more about, because they're the ones that were designed to go 90 days. Any guesses? Did I already tell you how long Opportunity has been running on the surface? 90 days was how long was it supposed to last, right? That's kind of like our regular robots. In fact, one of the things about NASA sponsoring this event is that the time frames that they have students work on, like they design a build in 6 weeks and it's supposed to last through a season, which is like 90 days, right? That's a NASA thing. That's what their rovers do. Except Opportunity is still running 10 years later and keeps sending data. So that's pretty good design. I'm not sure about Curiosity. I hear a lot about Opportunity. I don't think Curiosity is anymore. Between dust storms on Mars and batteries running down, not getting enough solar energy. Although I did hear an interesting thing, I think it was on the video, was that the dust storms on Mars that we knew about turned out to really help, because sand would build up, dust, it's not sand, the dust on Mars would build up on the solar panels so that the batteries couldn't recharge. But if a dust storm came by and cleaned off the solar panels, they could charge better. You wouldn't think so, but dust storms were good things. So yeah, so check out all those books, and we're going to have some suggestions for some reading online and some additional videos. NASA, just go into the NASA website. There's a whole section on Mars. Each one of the missions, there's a page or two, all the facts you want to find out, and some amazing photography. really haven't included a lot of the pictures from Mars. There are some in this book. This is a very good picture book. The Red Rover has some really cool pictures in it. But there has been an amazing pictures of sunsets on Mars, followed by Earth set on Mars, right? Because from Mars you can watch the Earth set, and I don't think those would translate very well onto this size screen, but do take a look at that on the NASA webpage. Okay, so we told you a little bit about our team. We've shown you the video, and hopefully you have your rovers made. I said maybe as a bonus, you know, maybe we could have a little bit of a quiz. So if you are a Kahoot fan, okay, if you know how to play Kahoot and you want to join, get your device ready, because we're going to go through a little quiz. Now, this is a quiz that I put together for something else, and I meant to take out some of the questions in here that have to do with something else, but that's okay. I'll just tell you the answers to those unless you want to take a guess. So what I'm going to do is set it up to do a automatic aliasing, nicknaming, so you don't have to worry about putting your name in, okay? But what we'd like to do is have you guys just try. So I'm giving you a couple minutes here to go ahead and get a phone, a laptop, or use the whatever device you're using, and go to kahoot.it. And if you have an app or something, you can do that as well. And we're going to bring up a little Kahoot and play a little quiz. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to have to shift around from one page to another here and share my screen again. And make sure this is the right one. Oh, I have two Kahoots open. Let me see, is this the right one? Okay, we're going to see. Okay, so when the pin comes up, if you haven't played this before and you go to this website, it's going to tell you that you put in this pin. Just put the number in, and this identifies the quiz that we're going to play. And we need some players here, so let's see if we can get a few guys to log in and play with us. I'm challenging Brian to play. I would play, but I made up the questions, so I know all the answers. If you guys are all too busy playing with your rovers, we can let you do that. But let's see if we can get a couple players in here. Come on. I love these nicknames. I always use the nicknames now because they're so funny. Okay, we're up to 2. Can we get a third player? Yay! A couple more minutes here, or a couple more seconds. All right, there are 15 questions. I'll give you a little background. There are 15 questions. Most of them are about Mars. Half of them are from the video that we recommended. And about half of them are about the Deep Space Network. So the Deep Space Network is a series of antennas that are used to communicate with satellites and probes sent into space. But I have a couple funny things in there that I used this with some students not long ago and asked them some questions, and I wasn't getting a whole lot of answers. So I'm going to ask a couple questions that are not related to these questions that have to do with some movies, and see if we can get some of you guys to be a little more knowledgeable about your science fiction and science history than they were. Okay. All right. I'm going to give a last countdown here to get started in 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's start. So here's our first question coming up here. You have 20 seconds to answer the questions, and there are 15 of them. This one you should know from one of the slides I gave you. If you can do the math, Mariner 9 went to Mars in about the same time as one of the rovers. And if you don't know, you should guess, and that's a good guess. We have 2 that were correct. Okay, so we're going to see a little countdown here on how we're doing, getting some points. Okay, Speedy Tiger and Expert Finch, you get another chance coming up here. Okay, some of these are really easy. Okay, now I mentioned this too. Okay, here's an easy one. Everybody should get this, but you have 20 seconds. You got to click on something. So just pick a color and grab one. Okay, that is correct. So we've got another player in the game now. We had 3 answers on that. Let's see. All right, Speedy Tiger, you need to be speedy on this next one. And if you need to, I'll give you a hint. All right, so I told you what the rovers do a lot of with something that they send back to Earth. And if you were a tourist on Mars, it's the first thing you would do too. And the first thing is they take a picture. So yeah, they get the camera up and they take a picture to kind of see where they are. Or maybe that's just because NASA wants more pictures, and that's the first thing they want to make sure they do.
I mean, pictures are cool.
Yeah, well, and they got a nice camera, so they can use it. Okay. You might have seen this in the news. Spirit and Opportunity specifically have been looking for something that you don't see a whole lot of in this picture, but which was responsible for the layers. Little geology question. Water is correct. See, you guys studied your science. Okay. All right, Speedy Tiger, you got to pick one this time. Okay. I told you the answer to this about 5 minutes ago, not even 5 minutes ago. How long were they supposed to operate? And by the way, I believe that's the Opportunity lander, which was pretty cool. It's in the video as well. 90 days, that's right. And they way far exceeded it. Okay. Here we go. I mentioned this name. It was in the news in February. It was initially only called Mars 2020 because they had a contest for the name. Just like Spirit and Opportunity and Curiosity, they had a contest. That's right, Perseverance. Some of you guys read the news. All
Pathfinder is actually a rover, though.
Pathfinder was an earlier one. That is correct.
I saw Speedy Tiger guess that.
And I did mention it, so that was a little bit tricky. Okay. All right, now the Deep Space Network. I want you to think about if you were going to cover the Earth and you had a satellite in 2 places, the United States and Spain, where would you need to put the third one? That gets you down to 3, but maybe 2. And they do speak English with a funny accent. It's in Australia. It's in Canberra, actually. So I didn't put a picture of it because I would have given it away. But okay. So that was about Deep Space Network. Now here, this is one where the clue is in the picture because that's from a movie. And if you're a real science fiction fan, you have seen this movie.
I have not.
You have not seen it?
No. Not really a big movie watcher.
But you got to see this one. It's a classic movie. And the key to the whole classic movie is V'ger. V'ger is the name of one of the characters. And guess what? It has to do with Voyager 1. That is the Star Trek movie. I think it's the first one. So go watch Star Trek. That one is actually pretty good. They're not all. It's got a lot of pictures of spaceships in slow motion panning by. Okay, so here's another movie. Okay, in another movie, we're talking about communicating with space. You may be able to tell from what the label is on the wall there that it's about Apollo 13. And they were trying to communicate with them, but they couldn't all the time. And yeah, it's because when they're on the far side of the moon, it gets blocked by the radar communication can't reach them. And there's a whole scene in Apollo 13, the movie about that. It's a true thing. Great movie. Okay, there's another movie to watch, Apollo 13. Okay. I think we're going to come back to the Mars questions here. We're 2/3 of the way through. Here we go. You don't know the answer to this. Take a guess. How long will it take? That's not a Mars rover. That's a Lego robot. That's the new model. How long do you think it would take a rover to go the length of a football field? Total guess here. Total guess. What do you guess? One pretty good guess there. It takes about 45 minutes at their normal speed. They don't go really fast. They don't crawl, that slowly, but yeah, about 45 minutes to go a football field. That's pretty slow, right? All right. Genius Snail, you're way up there. Okay. What is Perseverance looking for? Still up there and sending some pretty cool pictures back. What are we always looking for, human beings? Life. Looking for some evidence that there was life on Mars and that it was inhabitable. Habitable. I never knew the difference between those two words. All right. This one was in the video. So I'll give you more. If you watched that video, if you didn't, you should watch it because it's pretty interesting. He calls the Spirit the bad sister because Spirit and Opportunity were sister robots. This is the reason he calls Spirit the bad sister. Also, she didn't run as long. Yeah, it was a kooky computer science thing that if you didn't watch the video, it would be hard to guess that. They actually had to have it wipe its memory because it has limited memory. You got to launch this thing into space. And it just so happened that the minute it touched the first rock, like the thing it was there to do, to examine rocks, is when its memory filled up. And so it said, and didn't do anything. So they had to figure it out, send it some messages to clear some memory. You know how like when you clean up your computer and you dump your junk files, they had to do that. And then she was okay. She put him through a real hard time there. Okay. We're almost done. Two more. I'm just going to give you a hint here. What do you use to figure out where you are? We use Deep Space Network to figure out where signals are coming from in space. What do you use to figure out where you are on Earth? And they have a lot in common. Correct. GPS works the same way. It's called trilateration. You find 3 distances and where they intersect, and that's where you are. Usually GPS, you get 4, satellites interacting. Okay. I think there's a couple of hard ones, maybe one hard and one easy one. This one you wouldn't know unless you watched the video. So take a guess. You can rule out 2 of them. It's a real person, not an actor. And somebody who's, fairly young. His name is Kobe Boykins, so you would have to just take a guess. Michelle Thaler was a very good guess because she's in another video, and she actually was at Goddard, and she used to do programs, and I actually was at a program with her at the Space Flight Center in Goddard. If you'd been there, I don't think she still does that, but and then she was in this other video. She's a big-time NASA scientist. Okay, last one. I hope this is an easy one. Oh, yeah, this is one you can guess. If you know anything about Mars and what's different about Mars and Earth. It's an easy one, but read all the answers. Yes, you guys read all the answers. All of those have been used. All of those have been used because there's not enough atmosphere on Mars to just use a parachute. Okay, now time for the winners. Who's on the podium? Expert Finch is on the podium. And you don't have to tell us who you are. Winged Sloth is on the podium. And the winner is, who's been in the lead? Genius Snail. Yay, Genius Snail. So if you haven't played Kahoot, see how fun it is. You have to try to play Kahoot sometime. There are some public Kahoots. There's another one that I found. I might share the link for that one. It's made by NASA. It's just all about Mars. And there are some other ones that you can get on your own. So thank you for playing. And I think that we have a little wrap up about some library resources and activities.
Yes, and thank you so very much, Rose and Brian. This was a really wonderful program, a lot of fun. And for the library, we do have, as Rose had said, a lot of resources here that you can check out. We will be emailing the list of resources that you can find at Carroll County Public Library. And I have some of them here, and just to show you what this one looks like, it's actually quite a large picture book. And let me see if I can just bring that up. And just wanted to show how beautiful it is inside and how interesting. And it does show like the complete landing process.
Oh, I thought that was Opportunity. That was Curiosity. But Opportunity didn't use the bouncy ball thing either. So, which I think is one of the coolest things. So, yeah, I should read that book.
And then just another one here, the what's inside spacecraft. And these have wonderful, if you like to look at design drawings, this book is really fabulous. So there's just a couple of examples.
Oh, I have a suggestion I forgot to tell you about for those that are looking, who just want a good summer read. Andy Wier just wrote a new book recently. Andy Wier, who wrote The Martian. Of course, The Martian's a great read. But he wrote another one about space travel that I don't know if it's been out maybe like a year.
And how do you spell his last name?
Weir. And I'm looking for the name of his. Do you happen to know what it is, Brian? Have you read his new book? He wrote Artemis after he wrote The Martian. And that was his second book, and that was on the moon. I read that one, and that's really good. And his stuff is very there's a lot of science in it because he's an engineer, right? He writes stuff that's why he wrote The Martian in such detail, and it's very realistic. And he's got, I can't remember Project Hail Mary. That's what it's called. Project Hail Mary. And I know you have it at the library, and it is a wonderful summer read. I won't give anything away except to tell you that if you're interested in long distance space flight and all of the interesting things that can happen, and also, concerned about responding to crises on Earth, it is a wonderful read.
Excellent.
So read that one. Project Hail Mary.
Well, thank you. And thank you again for partnering with the library and presenting this really interesting and wonderful information with this fun activity. So thanks so much again, Rose and Brian. Thanks everybody for attending. And you can check out more information at the library, and then also the Facebook and website pages for PIE3 and Robo-Lions. So thanks again.
Great being here. We love it.